All right, so the question is about Binance and Binance US with the US charges against Binance, Binance US, what's going on? Well, I addressed this in an update recently. Long story short, Binance US, we'll see. It's certainly not good. As far as Binance as a whole, the US regulators have basically just charged Binance with being a criminal enterprise. So that's not good. But at the same time, but how do you do something about that? And I'm not a legal expert. I don't really know how any of this stuff works. I vaguely know. It just seems to me really tough because of the way Binance is structured, seeing as so much of its operations and its assets and just structurally it's spread out across all these different jurisdictions. And there are some places that are quite happy to have Binance's business. The US is not one of those, but there are a lot of places where, I'm sure they'll help Binance, either because they want that, they like Binance there, or maybe there's some personal relationships, maybe there's some political or financial dealings that make people want to do nice things for Binance. Maybe it's just a thumbs up, middle finger at the U.S. It's just so complicated. I wouldn't handicap it, but it's certainly not good. And if what Binance did was true, it's really shady. It would be like if you went to the bank, deposited money in the bank thinking it was credited to your account, and you open up your app and it's credited to your account, but it's really just sitting in the CEO's bank account. Well, look, the CEO says, look, don't worry, don't worry, Safu. Safu, you want your crypto, you get it. And it happened for years. But there's no actual money in your account. It's just the CEO. You have to trust that the CEO does what the CEO needs to do. There are a lot of businesses that are like that, but not set up in a way structurally where the money just goes into the corporate account. There are a lot of businesses where you have to trust the CEO in order to get the result you want. But there are not a lot of businesses where when you pay, it goes right into the CEO's bank account. When you buy an iPhone, right? There are a lot of steps that go along the way before it gets to Apple's treasury. And so imagine that none of those steps happened. And when you bought the iPhone, it went straight into the corporate treasury, and Apple gave an IOU for every single person along the way who got paid off of that iPhone. And there are a lot of other metaphors and allegories that I could give. The point is, it is not this. You can argue the ethics, but that is breaking the law, and it's not honest. It's not an honest representation of what's happening to your assets if the U.S. government is correct. So just think about that. If you think about, I'll still use Binance. Well, look at what they're doing. It's not the only exchange that's doing it. It's probably a lot more common than we think. But keep that in the back of your head, which might sound evasive. It's not evasive, but I don't have any information to know. I don't have the information or expertise to be able to say anything more substantial than that. The bottom line is, be careful, but at least be aware of what's going on. At least know that when you deal with Binance or any crypto exchange that is not regulated in the United States, that you do run that risk. And even with Coinbase, what they're being accused of is more like, that's more run-of-the-mill. I shouldn't say run-of-the-mill. That's not good. But it's also around disclosures. It's around selling unregistered securities and some of the business practices, right? It's more about their business model and how their business model is operating within the framework of securities. Well, just finance, for the financial network or the financial regulatory framework in general, where they're not in compliance. But they're not being accused of doing criminal things and lying and fraud and defrauding and facilitating all sorts of bad financial activities. Maybe they are, but they're not being accused of that. Binance is. So keep that under advisement. Relax and enjoy the ride.